It's been a tough few weeks for Canada's Liberal government. Following a sustained media blitz and a special report from a UN special rapporteur who called Canada's temporary foreign workers program a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery. Canada's Liberal government has pledged to scale back Canada's temporary foreign worker program. The Toronto Star recently ran a scathing report in which an ESDC employee painted a picture of a program that has abandoned all checks and balances and effectively become a rubber stamp. Trudeau has expanded the program considerably during his tenure, including its data reporting. The deep dive has dug into that data and created a few looks that we think highlight salient points about the program. Before they're allowed to hire a temporary foreign worker, companies must file a labor market impact assessment and have it approved by Employment and Social Development Canada, the ESDC, which I mentioned before. The assessment criteria is different for each of the 5 different streams, but it is generally a series of steps designed to test if the position is one that can't be filled by Canadian workers. Okay, so the test consists of the position being posted on Canada's job bank for a period of time and remaining unfilled. The job bank has its own LMIA tab, right up front. LMIA is one of the most popular types of job searches, second only to searches for jobs that require no experience. Generally, after an eligible job is posted for a period of time and remains unfilled, a company's LMIA application can be approved, and it can hire a temporary foreign worker to fill the position. After digging through all the LMIA applications since 2019, the deep dive can say for sure that the program has seen some expansion. The government went from approving 28,000 temporary foreign worker positions at Canadian companies in the second quarter of 2019 to more than 68,000 job positions for temporary workers in Q1 of 2024. That is more than a 2x increase. A look at the approval percentages show that the fluctuations of approved positions between quarters had more to do with the number of applications than anything else. The approval rate is consistently above 98%. This acceleration is consistent with what the Toronto Star source is saying about throughput pressures at the ESDC. They said, "We had to call every single person prior to 2022 and talk them through the application and about their business needs," an employee said. "Now, I would say about 90% of the people that are applying aren't even getting a call. We're not verifying anything." 90% aren't getting a call? 90%? It's a rubber stamp factory. They're so concerned with quotas that they aren't even calling the applicants. The employers don't always make their own applications either. There's a whole cottage industry out there of immigration consultants who make LMIA applications on the company's behalf. And there are rules about how that can be done. Specifically, that it's explicitly forbidden to charge the workers for fees that employers have to pay the government or fees that the consultant charges the employers. But there are numerous complaints about immigration consultants doing just that. A lawsuit filed in BC last week alleged that CanNest Immigration Consulting charged a temporary foreign worker $6,490 in fees, including $1,000 for the cost of an LMIA application for a job as a cook at a sushi restaurant in Kelowna, BC. That would-be cook found out when he got to Canada that the job didn't exist. The government approved about 38,000 jobs for cooks in the 2.5-year period we looked at, and another 2,600 for chefs, but none of them were at a sushi restaurant in Kelowna called Freshbox. See, an immigration consultant who knew that the applications weren't being looked at too closely might decide to make bulk applications for a bunch of companies that might be interested in hiring foreign workers, especially if they knew that they could pass the application fee on to the workers, which they can't. Unless nobody's really checking, which they aren't. Now, there are enough complaints about consultants charging workers for the cost of an LMIA application to believe that it must be happening, but the government has issued very few penalties. Only 916 of the companies participating in the program have been assessed penalties since 2016. For context, 96,411 different companies have filed LMIAs in the period we're looking at, which is 2019 through 2024. More than half of these companies were penalized for not producing the documents they were supposed to when the immigration inspector asked for them, which sounds like a good way to stay out of bigger trouble. 20 of them didn't even show up to the meeting. About a third of them were cited for crappy working conditions, and 56 of these 96 violations are being reported to the public without any information about the reasons. In 8 years of penalty data, one company has been penalized for charging workers fees related to their hiring. Perry Maricel, doing business as Victoria Nannies and Caregiver Placement Agency, were assessed a $10,750 penalty for the violation in July of 2021. And they still remain eligible to apply for LMIAs, though they don't appear to have applied for any under those names. The government is assessing monetary penalties to these companies when they break the rules. About $9.5 million worth since 2016. $4 million of that $9.5 million remains unpaid. 379 of the 862 companies who were assessed monetary penalties remain ineligible to submit LMIAs for having not yet paid their fines. And remember, 916 penalties over 9 years is nothing. There were over 44,000 Canadian employers approved to hire TFWs in 2023 alone. Most of the jobs on this list are low-wage jobs in the agricultural sector. We plotted the agriculture jobs made available for TFWs against the agriculture jobs in the whole country just to see, and the growth is dramatic. The TFW positions amount to 38% of all agricultural jobs in 2023. When you take away agriculture, meatpacking, and fish processing, companies are right up on the top with Amazon and CGI. Now, we don't know why those big tech companies stepped down their temporary foreign worker hires in 2023. It might be that their labor pool changed, but it might also be that they were keeping their heads down. 95,600 different companies applied to hire TFWs in that period, and they're businesses of all sizes. And it's inevitable. Having created a landscape where below market labor is available for the asking, companies practically have to take advantage of it if they want to stay competitive within their industries. You should try to think of the temporary foreign workers program every time someone tries to tell you that the government isn't business friendly. It doesn't matter what sector we're talking about, money is made by keeping costs low, and the number one cost is usually labor. Taking advantage of desperate workers from less developed economies is a very effective way to keep costs down in the short run. And if companies weren't allowed to do it, the economic landscape would be a lot different. And that's why the government's only pretending to change it. Recently, the Liberal government announced changes to Canada's temporary foreign worker program that would bring the allowable maximum TFW hires down from 30% of a company's total workforce to 20% for most sectors, but not for the sectors that post the most TFW positions. Companies looking to post temporary foreign worker jobs in healthcare and construction will stay capped at 30% of their total workforce, while companies hiring in agriculture, fishing, and tourism are exempt from the cap during their peak seasons. In terms of bulk job numbers, that's most of the jobs in our sample, without even counting tourism, which is impossible to break out because it could be anything. Canada's Immigration Minister, Mark Miller, has described the country as being addicted to temporary foreign workers. And he isn't wrong. But who's responsible for that? And here's the thing. Some people would argue that we are too pro-business here with our government by allowing this to happen in the first place. But I'd argue that it's the government's job to act as an adult to prevent this from happening. Yes, for businesses, hiring temporary foreign workers is good in the short run as it brings down costs. But in the long run, it means that the middle class further deteriorates, and that means that there is less money from consumers to spend on goods and services for companies to benefit. This is a classic example of cutting off one's nose to spite their face. And in this case here, the same people who are complaining about the problem are the ones who should have been regulating it as it happened. It wouldn't be reasonable to suddenly expect this Liberal government to start taking responsibility for their actions. But hey, if they want, perhaps they could file an LMIA and hire a temporary foreign worker to take the fall for them. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Also, let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks, everyone.